everyone, it's Melissa and welcome back to my channel. On this video, we'll be making a pair of earrings, a bracelet, and a necklace using the same technique with just a few little minor adjustments to our base component to create this wonderful design. The items I am using are from softluxcompany.com, size 11 seed beads, these 7mm Czech Glass fire polish, these 6x9 rondels. I believe they're sold out, but you can use any bead to make your little design. Just depending on the size of the bead will alter your little shape, but we're going to make this little diamond design look super complex, but it is very easy and beginner friendly to make. And before we start creating, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps my little channel grow. And down below in the description, I will leave a link for the products used in this video, as well as other bead woven tutorials. Let's start creating. So on today's tutorial, we'll be making these beautiful little bead woven components, and you can use them to connect to like a bracelet or the earrings. So we're just kind of modifying this basic technique. We'll also be using this same little technique with our bead woven components to make this beautiful necklace. So I hope you enjoy the following tutorial of how to make these beautiful little components into a gorgeous piece of bead woven jewelry. So to start, we're going to make our base component. So we're going to need 4 of our little Czech glass rondels, and you're going to need 9 seed beads for each little crown on the rondel and 1 seed bead in between. And they're super lightweight, and just depending on the bead that you use will really change the look of your design. I will be using the Miyuki beading thread that is also available on softluxcompany.com. It comes in silver and golds. And we will need our needle. And I'm using the Big Eye needle that's currently available on Softlex Company. If this one is sold out, I will also leave a link down below for the John bead needle. So we're going to thread our needle. And for the first part of the project, I like to work on the spool just in case I need an extra thread. I don't have to make a knot in my design. And for this little design, we are going to pass back through the beads quite a few times. So if your design is a little bit loose, it will tighten up with passing through multiple times. We're going to pick up one of our Czech glass, a size 11 seed bead, a Czech glass, and a seed bead. So we're going to alternate. So whatever you start with, if it's the Czech glass, you're going to end on a seed bead, or vice versa. You're going to have 4 of each. You want about 20 inches of thread per component, and then always save anything left over. You can use the little bits and pieces to connect our little components together at the end. So with our needle, we exited the seed bead. We're just going to pass back through our Czech glass. We want to make sure we pass back through all the beads. So our end thread is exiting this rondel. We want to pass back through the rondel. So if you've seen my other tutorials, like with the earrings, you want to have that crisscross essentially. So we have one thread exiting one side of the rondel, one thread exiting the other. Now, if you need more thread, we can just kind of loosen up our little component and just gently slide it down our first little component. We're going to pick up 9 seed beads. And once you have the basic part of this design down and this little technique, the possibilities are endless. You could add bicones, you could add 3x5 gem cut rondels or gemstones. So really endless possibilities with this design, but you're just learning the simple technique to make this amazing design. 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have our 9 seed beads added on. We're exiting here. We're going to go the opposite way. and pull. And this is going to allow our little crown. Now we're going to have to reinforce the 9 seed beads we just added on. So we're just going to pass back through those seed beads. And the same thing is if we can't pass back through all 9 at one time, just a few at a time will be okay. And then we're just going to pass back through the other 2 and through our Czech glass and give it a pull. So we have the initial pass with the 9 seed beads, and then we just went back and reinforced it. We're going to go through that next seed bead and through our rondel. Don't worry if it's a little loose. You still have all 3 of these to go through, and then we can reinforce further if needed. So we're exiting this side. We're just going to pick up our 9 more seed beads. We're exiting this way. We're just going to go through the other way and give it a pull. And then we're going to go and reinforce. Time we pass back through our Czech glass, I just kind of like to give it a little pull and make sure that everything is nice and tight. And then we're just going to go through our next little seed bead and our Czech glass and pull. And then we're going to add our 9 seed beads. So we're just doing the same thing until we reach the end of this Czech glass. So we added all the little crowns onto our Czech glass, and you can tell that, there's a little bit of a spacing issue, but we're going to fix that. So we're kind of close to the end of the spool. And then our next step is we're going to connect 2 of these little components together. So I want to add about 16 inches or so. So we're exiting out of this Czech glass. We want to be right next to our end thread or our starting thread. So to do that, we're just going to pass through the next little seed bead. We're going to remove the needle and just set that off to the side. We're going to take our 2 threads and we're just going to make a simple knot. And give it a pull. And this is going to tighten your little design together. Don't worry if the seed beads are going every which way. And then we're just going to do another little knot. So now on the longer piece of our thread, we're just going to reattach our needle. And then we're just going to pass back through one of our Czech glass and give it a pull. Sometimes you'll hear like a little click or a tug, and that's just going to mean that your knot went inside one of the beads. So we do have our tail here of our other thread. We're just going to bring in our nippers and trim off any extra thread. Then we can kind of straighten up our design. So we have our needle, and it's coming out of one of our Czech glass. So we do have an odd number of 9 as our little crown. We're going to go up to our 5th bead on our seed beads. So that odd number is going to be the connection point. If you want for your design, you can always do it a different color if you don't want to count the little seed beads in your design. So we have it exiting the 5th bead on our little crown. We're going to bring in one of our 7mm fire polish and our first little connection that we made earlier. We're going to pick up 2 size 11 seed beads, our fire polish, and 2 more seed beads. We're going to find the 5th bead on one side of our component. We're just going to pass back through. And you can see our little connection point. So just by making these little components, and then you can connect them with any bead in between, or we can connect them directly to each other, which I will do later on in this tutorial when I am adding on my pendant. So we're exiting this fifth bead here. We're going to add two more seed beads. We're going to pass back through our fire polish and give it a pull. We're going to pick up two more seed beads. This step, we want to make sure that we're going to go in the correct way. So it's exiting this way. We want to go in the opposite side, opposite way that we started. And with the size 11 seed beads, they'll just be a little offset and they won't lay straight. You can see here how they almost look like a little ladder stitch or brick stitch starting. We're just going back through. So you can see how little pieces of extra thread are beneficial for your design. And we're just going to go through a few times. And you can pick up your beadwork if you need to. I know sometimes it's kind of hard to film the seed beads just because they're so small. I reinforced our little connection point, and now we're just going to go ahead and remove the needle. We're just going to make a couple knots and end this part of our component. So we have a couple knots on our thread, and we're just going to pass back through our seed beads and our Czech glass. Just a few more times. And this just helps everything stay nice and secure. So we're going to trim off our extra thread. And we have a beautiful little component. And this would be gorgeous as an earring if you wanted to. But this is kind of the technique that we're going to be working on. So we're just doing our little clover or a little diamond, and then we're connecting it with the Czech glass. So we're just going to set that off to the side, and we're going to do one more little clover. And then we're going to modify it just a little bit so we can make the rest of the pendant, a pair of earrings, and our bracelet. So we'll add in four more. And we'll just need one more Czech glass to connect. So you can see how this design, if you didn't want to make any modifications to it, you could just keep doing the simple technique for your earrings, and then maybe just add a charm to the end of like the clasp or from the earring. So we're going to make one more component. We're going to pick up our Czech glass, a seed bead, a Czech glass, a seed bead, and repeat our steps till we have four of each. And what I love about these Czech glass is they're kind of like a lavender opal or a kind of pastel. So depending how they move, it just kind of gives a different design. And they will move in your design as well. So we have all four of our beads added on. We just added on the seed bead, so we're going to pass back through the Czech glass and go through all those beads again. So we're exiting this Czech glass, so we're just going to crisscross and pass. So we have our thread, one going each way of that Czech glass. We're going to pick up our 9 seed beads. We're exiting this side. We're just going to go in the opposite side and pass back through. And then we're just going to go ahead and reinforce our seed beads by passing back through. We're just going to go through our 5th seed bead on top. And then we have the little tail. So we're just going to trim our extra thread before connecting our components. This one seems a little wobbly, so if it's still wobbly at the end, we can go back and reinforce it once we connect to our other component. So we're going to pick up 2 seed beads, our 7mm fire polish, and 2 seed beads. We're going to go through the 5th bead, which is our little connection point, and pass back through. So you can see it's the start of our little component. We're going to grab 2 more seed beads and pass back through our fire polish. And 2 more seed beads. So we're exiting this side of our seed bead. We're just going to go in the opposite side. And pass back through and give it a pull. And then we're just going to reinforce this little connection point between our 2 components. And I think I'll go back and reinforce this little unit. This is going to be the sides of our necklace. So we're just going to connect these 2 units of 3 together. Same way by connecting them at that 5th seed bead on the little crown. Exiting this 5th bead as our connection point, we're going to pick up the 2 seed beads, 1 fire polish, and 2 seed beads. Fire polish. So 2 seed beads, 1 7mm, 2 seed beads, and a 7mm. Now you could attach your clasp directly to the seed beads. I'm going to attach it to a jump ring. A few reasons. If you want to switch out your clasp in the future, you don't want to have to restring your whole project. You could just switch out your clasp or add like a little piece of extender chain. So it saves time and work from having to restring and redo your project. So now we're going to add 15 little seed beads. And this is what our jump ring is going to connect to for our clasp. We have our 15 seed beads, and we're just going to let those slide down on our thread. This is our little connection point. So you can see our little circle where we'll attach our jump ring. And then we're going to add 2 more seed beads. So similar how we did the connection point, we're just adding in an extra fire polish. And just kind of gives a little bit of extra sparkle and length to your necklace. And then we're going to do our connection points. So 2 more seed beads. We're exiting this way. We're just going to go in the opposite way. I know when your little components start connecting and your project gets longer, sometimes the thread will get a little twisted or knotted. So we'll just go back and reinforce. And this time we want to go through our seed beads. And you can pass through at least 2 times, maybe 3. So we're just going to continue to reinforce a few more times. So we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. Exiting that 5th bead in the middle, we're going to pick up our 2 seed beads, fire polish, 2 seed beads, the fire polish, and then 15 seed beads again. And you can always adjust the little connection point if you wanted to. You could use a smaller amount of seed beads, so completely up to you. Have our 15 seed beads, and then we'll just pass back through our fire polish. Add 2 more seed beads. Our next fire polish. Give it a pull. And then we're going to add 2 more seed beads. And then we're exiting this side of the seed bead, so we just want to go in the opposite side. And just give it a pull. Make sure that our thread is not tangled in our design. And then we're just going to go back and reinforce, and then we're going to attach our clasp. We have both of our sides completed for our necklace. We're going to need two 6 millimeter jump rings and a clasp of your choice. I'm just using a lobster claw. So we have an open jump ring and we're just going to attach it to our little loop with seed beads. And then we're going to attach our lobster claw. If you're using like a toggle or a two-part clasp, you would just attach the other clasp to the other jump ring. So we have part of our necklace completed. We're just going to set this off to the side and we're going to work on our bracelet. Working on our bracelet. So we have two of our little components connected and we're exiting out of that fifth bead. We're going to pick up two seed beads. So just like we're going to do a connection point, we're do something a little different. We're going to be adding in a butterfly. So this is just going to be like our little charm, two seed beads, our fire polish, and our butterfly. We're going to add on another fire polish, and then two more seed beads. So kind of like our connection point, and this butterfly is going to act as one of our little bead woven components. And then we have two more on the other side, and we're just going to do the same thing to connect them. So we're going to go through the fifth one and give it a pull. And then we're going to add on two more seed beads. And then go in the opposite way for that middle bead on the seed beads. And then we're just going to go back and reinforce. We'll end our thread on the nearest component, and then we'll do the same thing that we did on the necklace to finish it, and then we'll attach our clasp. And then we'll change up our little design just a little bit so we can make our earrings and the rest of our necklace. You can tell just by making this little design and then connecting beads in between how it kind of changes up the design from like the necklace. So a lot of fun possibilities that you can make just making this little beaded component. Sitting out of that fifth bead, we have our two seed beads, our Czech glass, and then 10 seed beads. We're just going to pass them through. And it's nice when you do your connection point, it's instant. So you can see if it's big enough for your jump ring or your clasp, and then you can make any adjustments. And that's one of the worst things is if you get too far in your design and realize there's a mistake or a certain bead won't fit on the connection point, and then you have to redo it. So we have two more seed beads, and then we're just going to pass back through the opposite side of our bead. So we have our beautiful bracelet. Now we're just going to attach our clasp. We have our jump ring. Add it onto one side and give it a close. We'll hear that little click. And then we're going to attach our lobster claw to the other side and close. So we have our beautiful bracelet with our butterfly that's double-sided. And it's kind of like a rainbow, so it just picks up the purple. And then you have, this is the amethyst color of the Czech glass, and it just kind of has that little shimmer or like an aurora borealis finish. So we have our beautiful bracelet and part of our necklace done. Now we're just going to work on the pendant part of our design. So the one little thing that we're doing different, we're going to do the same kind of basic component, except for one of our little crowns is going to have 11 seed beads instead of 9. And you may notice that there is a jump ring, just kind of an easier way to add the jump ring on. We're going to attach our little embellishments to the jump ring later, so we will have to reopen it. But that way, it's once you're reinforcing it, it does tend to get a little tight around that bead. So by using the 6 millimeter jump ring, it just gives us some spacing, and then we can add our embellishments in the future. So to start our next little component, we're going to do the same thing, picking up 4 of each of our beads. 3 of them, we're going to go ahead and attach our 9 seed beads, and on the last one, we're going to attach the 11. So just like we did with all the other components, we're just repeating the same steps. So 9 seed beads for 3 of them, and the last one will have 11. We have 11 seed beads on the 4th one. We're going to pass back through. We're going to pass back through. This is going to create a little spool. So you do have a couple options is you could add your jump ring on. Sometimes it's a little tricky to pass back through again. So I just like to do my initial pass, go back and reinforce. And before I skip to the next seed bead and Czech glass, I'll add on the jump ring. So we're just going to pass back through. And you can try it both ways. This just tends to work a little easier. When I was doing a couple samples, I went ahead and reinforced everything and then tried to add the jump ring through, and it was really tricky. So with this, you could make maybe add a few more seed beads to make a bigger connection point. But I just like to do as similar as I can to the other one, so it just kind of gives it more of a unique look for your design. And then we're just going to pass back through, and you can see that there's some spacing. So that's where we're going to attach our jump ring. And then we're just going to add that on and close. This is where our threads will meet. So we'll go ahead and make a knot, and then we'll just reinforce our little component. And we're going to need to make 5 of these. So I have 2 connected, so we're just going to do the same thing. We just want to make sure that our jump rings are on the bottom. Design options is you could attach, a Czech glass if you wanted to, or one of the butterfly charms or whatever you're creating with. But I'm just going to show you another design technique if you wanted to connect them all together, just by using a couple seed beads. So we're just going to kind of do the same thing, but we're not going to be adding in one of the Czech glass. So we're exiting the 5th one, and then we're just going to add 2 seed beads and connect to the 5th one on the lower one. If you didn't want a lot of space in your design, this is just a great way to just add a couple seed beads. You could also use a larger seed bead, like a size 8, or you could just use 1 seed bead. I just kind of wanted to keep the same design by using a spacing of 2 seed beads, so that's why I added the 2 in there. And we're just going to go back and reinforce, and then we're going to attach them all together for our beautiful necklace. So we're going to do the same thing and connect these 2 together. So we have our little Czech glass. And then once we connect this all together, we're going to add in the sides of our necklace that we started for this tutorial. And then we get to add our fun little embellishment for our design. So we have our beautiful pendant part completed. Now we have to embellish. So this is a super fun part. And then similar to how we attach the clasp, by using a jump ring, if you ever want to switch out your charms or your beads, you can just open up that jump ring without having to redo the whole project. So we're just going to need some head pins and then some beads of your choice. I'm going to use the same little amethyst for my butterflies. And then I found these larger amethyst beads. They're available on softflexcompany.com. And I thought just to give it a little bit more sparkle in your design. So we're just going to add these on to our head pins. Tool called the one-step looper. And this is the 1.5 millimeter. They come in 2 other sizes that are larger. We're just going to slide it into our tool and then just give it a squeeze. And we'll have the perfect loop. And we're going to do that for the remainder of the beads on the head pins. You can also do a wrapped loop if you wanted to. We need our pliers and we're going to open up our jump rings. We're just going to gently open up our jump ring, add on our embellishment. Now this is a bead woven piece, so you don't want to add anything too heavy, such as maybe like a piece of turquoise or something. We're going to keep opening up our jump rings and adding our embellishments. Gently twist, and we'll add one of these big beads. I believe they're a 9 millimeter Czech glass. We added on all our embellishments. We're on the last steps of our necklace. We're going to bring in the 2 sides. And we're just going to connect them the same way with a 7 millimeter bead, or if you wanted to, you could add one of the butterfly beads. So kind of a design option. But then it would kind of match your bracelet if you wanted to do that with the butterfly. So if we did that, so you could see if you wanted to put the butterfly in, how you kind of have it, or you could just do the purple. I kind of like just having the solid purple. So we're just going to attach those together and we'll have our beautiful necklace and we'll start working on our earring. So we have the base of our earring. So we're going to do something a little different. So we're still going to start by picking up our 9 seed beads. But on this part of the project, we're just going to attach the ear wire. So we're going to make this extra little connection point. We're just going to pass them back through. We're going to go back and reinforce. If you prefer this connection point, you can also do that to connect them together. So a lot of different options. So we're going through the 5th bead, just like we would to connect one of our Czech glass and give it a pull. Now we're going to make our little connection point on top. So similar how we ended the necklace and bracelet. So we're going to need 8 for our little circle. And it's up to you if you want to make it bigger, but 8 is probably the smallest that you want. And if the butterfly bead is too big for your earring, you could maybe just add a Czech glass or just maybe use this as is without the little embellishment. And then just like we would for our connection point, we're just going to pass back through that 5th bead. And we have our little circle. Now, before you go back and reinforce this, you can always bring in your ear finding and make sure that it will fit your connection points. So we'll reinforce. So we have the little base of our earring and then our connection points. Now we're going to do the same thing that we normally do to start our little components. We're just going to go through that next seed bead or Czech glass, and we're going to be adding 9 on this one. On the bottom Czech glass, we're going to add 11 and our 6 mm jump ring, and then we're going to add 9 on the side. And before I close it, I'm just going to set this off to the side. We have our beautiful little butterfly. We're going to bring in our one-step looper, give it a squeeze, and we have a loop. And we just want to make sure that our loop is closed and nice and secure. And now we're just going to pick up our little component and add on our beautiful butterfly. Give it a close. We'll hear that little click. And then we're just going to pass back through the next seed bead. It's going to attach our ear wire. And then we'll just close it with our round nose pliers. And we have our beautiful butterfly earrings with our beaded component. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps my little channel grow and helps me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers.